At SCG Live, hashtag SCGWOR, excuse me, for your tweets all weekend long. You guys got questions that you want us to answer about Battle for Zendikar, Open Series events, what we think of this standard format, new standard format, all that stuff. We want them because we're going to be answering them. But for now, we watch Mike Sigrist start off with a Temple of Triumph. He will ascribe the top card to the top, and away we go here in round number one.
And Sigrist with a bit of a throwback build here. No copies of Hangerback Walker in the deck, and playing with 2 copies of Goblin Rabblemaster, a card that has really been pushed out of the format, in large part because of Hangerback Walker.
And Elvish Mystic is where Moon will start. The powerful green-red devotion strategy, just looking to ramp past your opponent, cast big spells like Dragon Lord or Tarka. Hopefully they can't do anything about it. Here is a Jace Vryn's Prodigy for Sigrist. A very hard card for green-red devotion to answer.
And you saw Sigrist elected to play that over using Wild Slash on the Elvish Mystic. Not really that concerned about what Moon can ramp into next turn, and just wants to get as many Jace activations in as possible and be as efficient with his mana as possible.
Courser of Crufix, his Moon's play on turn number 2. Sylvan Caryatid, the top card of the deck. Sigrist's going to activate Jace, so he'll draw and discard. Going to work on filling up that graveyard to flip into the Telepath Unbound. You did mention the Wild Slash in Sigrist's hand. Perhaps we'll see him cast it this turn. Rabblemaster was the draw off of the Jace, so perhaps he's going to discard that, but might be a Soulfire Grandmaster that bites the dust, and it will be.
Sigrist at this point really wants his land so he can play towards the Dig Through Time in his hand. And the low impact creatures on the ground. Second Soulfire Grandmaster now that he's playing the first one. Second one not really that valuable.
He'll take 1 to cast the Wild Slash, but also gain life from the Wild Slash, given that there is a Soulfire Grandmaster on the battlefield. Pretty healthy turn there from Mike as we pass the turn back over to Frank. Sylvan Caryatid will be the draw. Whisperwood Elemental on top of the deck. Not a land for the Courser.
And Sigrist with a robust selection of removal here, some of which can get to Courser Crufix. 3 copies of Valorous Stance, 2 Stoke the Flames, and a Roast in the main deck.
There's the Caryatid. Temple left the top card on top. We're going to head back Sigrist's way. 2 cards in the graveyard here for Jace.
I believe Sigrist just drew Valorous Stance, which great answer to Courser, and plays nicely with the Jace that's threatening to flip very soon.
Here's an activation of Jace. Time to draw and discard. Does Sigrist care about a card like Goblin Rabblemaster? It's certainly one that he's considering discarding right now.
I think Sigrist has a much cleaner line of play here, which is play for Dig Through Time and keep at Stormbreath Dragon and Dig Through Time. So, and Valorous Stance. Keep the removal, keep the high impact cards. Get rid of the low impact attackers on the ground that Moon can easily block.
Can certainly bluff a card like Ojtai's Command in this situation too. 4 mana open from a Jeskai deck. And it really only means 1 of 2 things. It seems like a lot of the time Stoke the Flames or Ojtai's Command. And Ojtai's Command has become so popular recently.
Especially with Jace Vryn's Prodigy being included in these decks, it's such a powerful thing to get back at instant speed.
Yeah.
Get back at the end of your opponent's turn, immediately activate and flip, flashback a spell. Very powerful line of play. And they're 2 cards that you're happy to play on their own.
Looks like Valorous Stance is going to be casting the draw step there by Mike. You saw the top card from Frank Moon. It was a copy of Nykthos. Now here is land number 4 for Frank, and that allows him to play the Whisperwood Elemental. Manifest will be joining the party as well here in just a moment. That Manifest is a Nykthos. We know that because of the Courser. So we move along accordingly. Sigrist able to flip Jace this turn and flashback Valorous Stance on that Whisperwood Elemental if he'd like to. Looks like he's going to start by activating Jace. He is being pulled in a few different directions because he has Dig Through Time and Jace with a graveyard, but looks like he might be able to accomplish everything he wants to.
Yeah, I think, you know, the Jace, if he flashes back 1 removal spell, maybe plays towards a 2nd removal spell, Sigrist will be pretty happy with the output. So it's not like he has to keep his graveyard entirely intact to make sure that Jace is active and has all these options the whole game. So at this point, it's more about mana efficiency and making sure the board stays as clean as possible.
Sigrist looking to discard a card here to Jace. He's got a pretty nice hand. Picked up a copy of Stoke the Flames.
The issue here, and where I think Sigrist is really getting pulled, is he has a lot of removal and a Stormbreath Dragon in his hand. So in theory, he can get rid of the Dig Through Time and try to play this flashback removal plus a Stormbreath Dragon kind of game. But Moon might be able to overpower that just by land drops and powerful creatures. So Sigrist has to make the decision now. Does he play for the Dig Through Time and play a slower game, or does he try to play the fastest, most tempo-oriented game possible?
Well, he's discarding Stormbreath Dragon, so it seems like he might be somewhere in between.
Well, I think at this point he's on a very firm control route. trying to keep as much removal available and dig through time as well.
Jace has flipped into the Telepath Unbound. And now Sigrist looks like he's going to play Stoke the Flames.
And I think the line of play that Sigrist is trying to set up here is to be able to stoke and dig through time this turn. Now that nukes the entire graveyard. So it's possible Sigrist is supposed to hold off on the dig through time for one turn, make sure he's flashed back a removal spell and get to it next turn. You can see he contemplated there for a second. Maybe I cast Stoke and have 2 mana left over to dig, but then at that point, Jace is doing very little.
Yeah.
So he kind of has to take a different line to make sure that dig through time stays up.
So he will flashback Valor Stance, take care of Whisperwood Elemental, and pass the turn back over to Moon. Moon's turn's much simpler.
Cast the biggest thing. Use all of my mana, casting the biggest thing.
How much mana do I have? All right, I'm going to try to use it all. Right now, he's got 5. The manifest creature on the battlefield is a Nykthos. Nothing special going on there. Jace hit 2 counters from flashing back that Valorous Stance. Here's a Xenagos. It appears that'll bring a Satyr token along with it. And into the red zone we are going to go. Jace going to bite the dust. What this means to me as well is that Sigrist is valuing his Soulfire Grandmaster very highly.
Well, it would have required a block there from the Soulfire Grandmaster, which is asking quite a bit. And getting rid of the Jace now for at a low cost allows the dig through time to be more efficient.
Sure.
It would have required a lot of resources for Sigrist to protect that Jace at this stage of the game. So I think he's better served just letting it go.
Looks like he might be going through time now. Very well. So Mike's going to delve away the entire graveyard to cast Dig Through Time. Take a look at the top 7, and of course, take 2 with him.
And Sigrist is doing a great job of managing his resources right now, but you can still see the trouble that Jeskai can have in matchups like Green Devotion, where even for all of his management and mana efficiency, it's hard for him to keep up game 1 with someone just casting a good 4 or 5 mana creature every single turn in the game. Hard for him to get much offense going, and a lot of his cards work against some parts of Moon's deck, but not others, and it's very hard to take a control route when you don't have necessarily a lock as the game progresses.
Here comes Soulfire Grandmaster.
And you can't answer every single card that your opponent puts on the table.
Yeah. Just a 2/2 into an 0/3.
Just trying to pick up 2 life on the house.
Absolutely. Maybe 2 damage if Frank's not feeling it. But he will block. Pretty safe one.
Risks the Defiant Strike.
He does.
We've seen that from time to time. It's
very
Jeskai
true.
list.
It's very true.
But just an effort to pick up 2 life there because Sigrist has no intent on blocking Moon's creatures on the way back.
A replacement Jason, a passing of the turn by Sigrist, back over to Moon. Moon with a land here. Access to 6 total mana at this point. 1 away from Dragonlord Atarka. 4 copies of that card in Moon's deck, no surprise there. However, here is 6 mana. Perhaps it's Genesis Hydra time. It is. So Genesis Hydra here for 4. So Moon will take a look at the top 4 cards, see if he can find something. Well, found something right off the top there in Pelucranos. So that's going to join the battlefield.
Yeah. For 4, does not have a lot of hits in Moon's deck that are high impact. The 2 are Pelucranos and Xenagos. His turn is great, though, having found one of those 4 drops.
Absolutely. And now Sigrist has 2 more problems to deal with.
Yes.
And heaven forbid, Frank finds another mana source. You have to imagine there's at least 1 copy of Dragonlord Atarka in hand.
Any of Moon's just generic big creatures at this point are very, very good.
Yep.
Dragonlord Atarka is the best of them, but Moon doesn't even need something that powerful at this point. As long as he keeps up the pressure here, Sigrist is on his heels trying to find answers to threats that he doesn't have a lot of time to answer, and not all of his answer cards can kill. It's a tough spot to be in.
Jace is going to be activated. Going to discard Mystic Monastery. Remember, the graveyard was moved from Dig Through Time, so it's not going to be flipping for at least a little bit. Plains is a land here for Sigrist. We'll see what's next year from the Player of the Year.
With 2 cards in graveyard and 6 mana, Sigrist can dig through time again, but he's looking at taking a really big hit this turn.
Yep. Polukranos potentially killing some things. There's a lot that can go really poorly here for Sigrist. Moon is in a very good position as he takes a draw step. Again, don't have a great idea of what's in Frank's hand at this point, but we can see what's on the board, and that just might be good enough.
It's the impressive thing to me about this Green Devotion deck. We get hung up on the games where someone has a lot of mana acceleration and a Nykthos early on in the game and is cranking out these awesome threats way ahead of schedule, and the deck looks very good when it's doing that. It can also win games like this, where it just makes its land drops and casts good 4, 5, 6 mana spells, as we've seen Moon do over the course of the last couple of turns.
Yeah, just kind of playing a normalized game of Magic here.
Yep, you do not have to go crazy with mana acceleration and Nykthos for this deck to be very potent, especially for a deck like Sigrist, where you look at his creatures, a lot of them are small threats on the ground, hard to make much out of. Threats like Goblin Rabblemaster, and then you see answer cards like Wild Slash and Magma Spray, very good against Elvish Mystic, but as the game proceeds, not that relevant.
Time to dig. We might have a response here from Moon with the Polukranos. Some juicy targets out there.
It's possible Moon played nothing this turn out of respect for Ojutai's command.
Yep.
And in the event that Sigrist had Dig Through Time, well, he has plenty to do with his mana here with Polukranos.
Polukranos is going to take care of Soulfire Grandmaster. Not terribly afraid of Jace, is Frank at this point.
That was a very savvy play there by Moon, because you get in these spots where you're playing against a blue deck that plays a lot of instant speed. You don't know exactly what's going on in their hand. You spend your turn running into Ojutai's command. That might be the opportunity for Sigrist to catch up. But when you have something to do with your mana, like Polukranos, you can just attack and say go. If Sigrist does nothing, well, you're certainly winning with what's in play. And if he taps out to answer your board or try to do something, well, then you have a way to hammer him with Polukranos.
Dig Through Time done resolving. So let's see what's next here. Cards like Valor Stance can play a huge role in things, building up the graveyard for Jace. Here's another copy of Soulfire Grandmaster.
There is a path here on Sigrist's side of the table. He is close to being able to set up Soulfire Grandmaster alongside something like Valorous Stance. If he gets to that, he can really start pulling back into this.
Yep.
But it's going to be an issue of time. Doesn't have a lot of life to play with.
There's a Roast. That'll take care of Genesis Hydra. There's also a Valor Stance in hand, I believe, right now from Mike.
This is potentially a very good setup here. He has Jace that's threatening to flip over very soon with a Roast in the graveyard to flash back. Sigrist also has 6 mana, Valorous Stance and Soulfire Grandmaster. So if he can survive this attack, he's got a lot of good routes. He can start gaining life with that Roast and Soulfire Grandmaster. He can start looping Valorous Stance, killing Moon's large threats.
What I think we might see this turn, depending on what Moon's turn looks like, is we might just see Sigrist take the hit from the Polukranos.
That would be the ideal, because I think Sigrist would like to keep that Valorous Stance in his hand to rebuy with Soulfire Grandmaster. It handles the Polukranos, and it handles a lot of future plays that Moon can have as well. Depending on what Moon does, Sigrist's hand might be forced. He may have to cast Valorous Stance this turn on the Polukranos to stay alive, but Sigrist would prefer to avoid that if he can.
Here come the attackers. 7/7 Polukranos, 2/2 Satyr token, 2/2 Manifest. And that Manifest, we all know it's a Nykthos. Nothing crazy down there. Looks like Jace is going to get in front of the Manifest. We might see a Valor Stance now, and the reason for this, as it takes care of Polukranos, is Mike can activate the Jace. Draw, discard, Jace will flip and negate basically the creature that attacked.
Exactly, and I think that the reason Sigrist might be giving up on the Valorous Stance plus rebuy at this point is because Moon passed the previous turn without casting anything. Sigrist might think Moon's on lands or low-impact creatures, and he doesn't need to set up Valorous Stance. Sigrist also has plenty to do with his mana anyway, because he now has Jace into a Planeswalker and spells in the graveyard. And I believe Sigrist drew Valorous Stance off of the Jace activation, which is the best of both worlds.
Life is pretty good then. Back to Sigrist we go. Moon with a very unimpressive turn, just as Sylvan Carry added, passed the turn back.
We're getting to the point now where Sigrist might have the cushion to flashback dig through time. He may not necessarily have to do anything with the removal spells right now. He's at 11, he's got a Soulfire Grandmaster in play that can gain 2 life. Sigrist is definitely not out of the woods yet. Just a Dragon Lord Atarka off the top can undo all of this.
Well, as it oftentimes does.
But he's done a very good job of managing what's been going on Moon's side of the table.
Jace going to go up to 6. Give that Satyr token -2/-0 until the next turn. Grandmaster looking to start looping some things. There's a Mystic Monastery. And it looks like Mike with just 1 card in hand. Looks like Soulfire Grandmaster coming on in. Carry added a block. Sigrist will gain 2. He's up to 13. Pass the turn back over to Moon. Moon will take a draw. Now he's finally got access to 7 mana, so Dragon Lord Atarka is a realistic option at this point. Now, he does have a copy of Dragon Lord Atarka in hand. Only tapping 4 mana, however, leads me to believe maybe we have a Xenagos on the way.
Yeah, the question is he willing to run into a potential Ojutize command here?
There is Xenagos. Elevator goes up. It's so that Moon can play 2 cards in 1 turn. So this actually works out beautifully because Xenagos will add 4 mana. Here comes mana 5, 6, and 7 for an attempt at Dragon Lord Atarka. Is there an Ojutize command? It looks like the answer is no. But what does Sigrist have? We'll start by activating Soulfire Grandmaster. We believe it's a Valorous Stance.
Well, this is a very good looking turn for Moon here as he can split the damage in such a way to finish off Jace this turn. 2 to the Soulfire Grandmaster, 3 to Jace. He has 1 creature that's eligible to attack already that wasn't shrunk by the Jace. And now they're... Oh, actually, excuse me, because Xenagos plus for mana this turn, Jace actually will stay alive.
Yep. You had him deal all of it to the Soulfire Grandmaster, which is a little surprising. No split whatsoever.
And that allows Sigrist to simply use the Valorous Stance to keep Soulfire Grandmaster alive.
Yeah, that's a strange split there from Moon with the Dragon Lord Atarka. Not divvying it up between Planeswalker and creature there.
I'm not sure what you're playing around that spot because unless you think Sigrist has something in his deck to pump the toughness of a creature, the only card that changes the calculus at all is Valorous Stance. And at that point, you definitely want to split the damage on Soulfire Grandmaster and Jace.
Absolutely. Looks like it's time to flashback a dig through time. Rarely have we seen Jeskai go this long against Devotion and still be able to keep up.
Well, Sigrist has... Jace has done a lot of work.
Absolutely.
And Dig Through Time's done a lot of work.
I mean, this is the 3rd Dig Through Time that's been cast in this game.
We've seen Sigrist get 2-for-1s by drawing a bunch of cards. And we've seen Moon get 2-for-1s by having threats that require multiple cards to answer. Sigrist has been, it feels like he's been swimming upstream the whole game, though.
And he's never gotten any traction, right?
Yeah, he's never been in a position to attack. The only card that's really allowed him to take that position was the Stormbright Dragon, which he had to discard much earlier on in the game to just ensure he had enough land drops and removal to do what he needed to do.
Well, Dig Through Time's done resolving. Jace has already been used for the turn. Soulfire Grandmaster still hanging out there. Is there an answer for Dragon Lord Atarka? We know there's a Valorous Stance in hand, though not enough mana to loop it. And I agree with you. It has just been a really difficult swim upstream the entire game.
Yes. I mean, Sigrist has fended off Moon's cards pretty well so far, but Sigrist is still not in a position to get out in front, to start attacking or to have a stable board. None of that's been happening.
Moon might be making a Satyr token here, and he is. So So 3 2/2s, 2 Sylvan Caryatids, and the big Dragon Lord Tarka out there.
Since Moon knows about the copy of Valorous Dance in Sigrist's hand, I think the attack that I like here is Dragon Lord Tarka at Sigrist, acknowledging that it's probably just going to get killed. And your 3 2/2s at Jace.
Get that off the battlefield.
Yep.
Well, we'll see exactly where these attacks are going.
It looks like Moon's dividing them in such a way. Now, Sigrist has an opportunity if he wants to keep Jace alive with a removal spell. Soulfire Grandmaster blocks one of the 2/2s that's attacking Jace and use a removal spell somewhere else.
So Jace is going to bite the dust. Valorous Stance takes care of the Dragon Lord Tarka.
And this is a very good attack by Moon with the split there by getting the extra 2/2 at Sigrist, because the most likely thing that Sigrist is doing with his mana is simply using Valorous Stance on Dragon Lord Tarka, so he gets a free 2 points that way.
The follow-up is another Dragon Lord Tarka. Soulfire Grandmaster going to bite the dust, pass the turn back. It's been uphill the entire way here for Sigrist. I don't know if he can come back from this one, though.
And I think the leftovers in his hand right now are Lightning Strike and Goblin Rabblemaster.
Cards that just don't line up well.
Yep.
Top card going to go to the bottom from the Temple of Epiphany Scry. Looks like Sigrist will cast the Rabblemaster. Maybe give away this information for this game.
Would not surprise me if these were just getting boarded out.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Goblin token got blocked by Caryatid. Satyr token will be made. We're going to see a lot of creatures coming to the red zone here. And that is going to do it for this game. Frank Moon's going to win game number 1 here over Mike Sigrist. Green Red Devotion up a game over Jeskai Aggro. And now we get ready to look at the sideboards here because we think the Goblin Rabblemaster is going to come out along with a couple other cards. The question is, what's going to come in here for Sigrist?
Sigrist can bring in a lot of cards here to become more of a control deck for the matchup. He's got 3 Ration Clerics, 2 Disdainful Strokes, 2 Glare of Heresy, 2 Outpost Siege, 2 copy of Elspeth Sun's Champion, a Rending Volley, an Anger of the Gods, an End Hostilities, and a Tragic Arrogance. The Sweepers and Tragic Arrogance and Hostilities, and even Anger of the Gods, which is not perfect for this matchup. Moon has a lot of large creatures. I still think all that stuff can come in alongside the 2 copies of Elspeth Sun's Champion, the 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke, and it wouldn't surprise me if Sigrist brought in the Outpost Sieges as well, because he's just becoming a much slower removal deck post-board.
Other side of things here for Frank Moon, he's got 2 Gather Courage. Interesting. I like it. 3 Nylea's Disciple, and Ugin the Spirit Dragon, 2 Nissa Worldwaker, 2 Rending Volley, a Roast, 2 Unravel the Aether, and 2 copies of Arbor Colossus.
I think you're going to see the Arbor Colossuses come in. I think the Nissas will come in as well. And I think there's a reasonable argument for Gather Courage in this matchup because Sigrist has a lot of red-based removal, and it's very powerful at fizzling Lightning Strikes and Wild Slashes and so forth. I think Rending Volley is a good candidate to come in as well. Not for sure. I think that's more of an anti-Dragon Lord Tarka measure. But if you're expecting Manus Riders, Soulfire Grandmasters, Jaces out of a Jeskai deck, I think Rending Volley is also totally reasonable.
I think you actually have to bring in Rending Volley in the matchup because you are so bad against Manus Rider.
Sure.
That I think you have to bring that card in. It's nothing great, but I think that in this matchup, Mantis Rider is so good against you. And actually, it kills like all of their cards. So yeah, this card's definitely coming in, actually.
The problem is that Sigrist has shown red threats, Goblin Rabblemaster and Stormbreath Dragon, which Rending Volley doesn't touch, but I still think the blue and white creatures are good enough in the matchup that Moon's going to bring it in.
Yeah, I think we'll see that come in as well. Well, as these players do shuffle up here for game number 2, we will talk about SCG Game Night, the very popular promotion. Thanks to you guys, of course, for playing in it. Every week in September, you can get the Kraken, and we also have got some things happening in October and November as well.
Exactly. This is the Kraken. We send out a new pin and foil every single month. Stores have the luxury of running game night however they want to, sanctioned or unsanctioned, any format they want. Just get players in the store on a regular basis for fun and friendly magic. The October kit coming down the pipeline here. You see the Hippo. You want to get signed up for this or for November, which we also have the Otter. Head over to StarCityGames.com/game night or contact your Star City Games in-store organized play representative today.
Call him by his name.
Otter von Bismarck.
Thank you. It's not just the Otter. The Otter is far too generic for Otter von Bismarck. The newest addition to the Game Night family. December 1 coming soon. Coming soon. Can't tell you what it is. Can't tell you what it is. It's a secret to everybody. StarCityGames.com/game night for more information. Game number 2 going to be on the way here in just a moment. Mike Sigrist, the player of the year in Magic. after getting second place at the last Pro Tour. Very impressive run for him. But as you said, he's been playing Magic for a very long time. You've run into him, I imagine, in quite a few PTQs.
I believe that he was a part. There is an old Your Move Games neutral ground grudge match set of tournaments back in the day.
Those are fun.
I think Sigrist was a participant in some of those. So he goes back that far. Neutral ground, a store in New York. No longer with us, unfortunately.
It's too bad.
Your Move Games, I still believe, up and running, up in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And there used to be a set of tournaments where, you know, you could kind of, sort of like IQ level tournaments that stores in New England or the Mid-Atlantic could get.
Okay.
You won the tournament, you qualified for the Grudge Match Championship at either Neutral Ground or Your Move Games.
Okay.
And then the winner of each of those tournaments would battle off for
I love it.
Yeah, a great tournament series.
I love a healthy grudge match.
Because Neutral Ground, Your Move game back in the day.
Rivalry?
Boston, New York, I mean, it was...
Oh, sure.
It was a real thing.
The equivalent of Yankees Red Sox.
For Magic, yes.
Yes. It's important. Rivalries are important. I love a healthy rivalry. Tom Ross, Reed Duke. Rivalry.
Great rivalry.
The score right now, I believe it's Tom 2, Reed 1, if memory serves.
Too much friendship now in Magic between competitors.
Absolutely.
Used to be a different thing. Grudge match, definitely part of that. Aptly named.
Trash talk, gone from the game. Different time now.
It is.
Mike Sigrist will take a look at his opening hand. He'll be on the play here for game number 2. Was not able to ever get any traction in game number 1. Was playing behind the entire time and always trying to catch up, and Frank just would not allow him to do that.
The issue is eventually Sigrist just draws too many late game lightning strikes, wild slashes, and goblin rabble masters to handle Moon's board.
Well, at least in game 1.
Yep.
We'll see what happens here in game number 2 and potentially game number 3. Moon will draw a card. Both players did keep their opening hands. It's a Wooded Foothills and a passing of the turn back to Sigrist. No Elvish Mystic to start the game off here for Frank or a Temple. Flooded Strand here by Mike. He'll go down to 19.
It wouldn't surprise me if cards like Elvish Mystic were just not in Moon's deck anymore. And he was planning on playing a much more slow, grindy game. Take some of the sting out of Sigrist's sweepers. Make sure his red removal spells are a lot worse. Not saying for sure that's happened, but I would not rule it out.
A Jace is where Sigrist will start things again. Very powerful threat against this deck. Mountain is what Moon is going to search up. Perhaps he has a Rending Volley in hand. And it looks like he does. Very powerful exchange there by Frank. Moon will draw. Now, if he's got a Forest, maybe a Mana Accelerant, this is a beautiful turn. Great start to the game here for Frank Moon.
It's as good as it gets.
There's a Temple. Take a look at the top card, Will Sigrist. That one's going to move to the bottom from the scry. Follow up his Soulfire Grandmaster. Over to Moon we'll go. Courser of Crewfix. Take a look at the top card. Is it a land? It is not. It's Whisperwood Elemental. Does Moon have a land to play? He does in Temple of Abandon.
Looks like he's not thrilled at the prospect.
I'm sure he'd like to get some value off of his scry, but I'm still playing it. I probably want to keep Whisperwood Elemental on top. Looks like that's what he's going to do. Pass the turn back over to Sigrist. Battlefield Forge the draw.
Shows a lot about Moon's play in the matchup. He's already got a Whisperwood in hand and no guarantee that he gets a 5th mana next turn. But he knows post-board it's a slugfest. He's just got to be able to withstand all of the removal and sweepers that Sigrist is bringing in. And so he just values all of his marquee threats, even if it slows him down a little bit.
Radical Mystic on top of the deck, not a land. Sigrist looks like he may have paused him in the draw step because he does have a Stoke the Flames. But he'll just let it go. Courser's going to come across here for 2. Follow up here for Moon is a Morph. Could be anything.
Could be anything.
Literally any card. Pass the turn back over to Sigrist.
And I like Moon not snapping off that Rending Volley. Sigrist has a very good target for Stoke the Flames in play with the Courser Crewfix, and Sigrist paused him in the draw step. So he wants to respond to the Stoke the Flames with Rending Volley to make sure Sigrist doesn't gain 4 life.
Sure. There's an island.
Now, Moon doesn't want to get too fancy. He doesn't want to get in a spot where Sigrist is able to rebuy a removal spell for free because he's waited so long on the Rending Volley. But I like waiting one turn.
Sigrist is just a land. He'll pass the turn back. Rattleclaw Mystic, the draw here for Moon. Sylvan Carry added on top of the deck. We know that because of the Courser. Moon with the ability to unmorph Rattleclaw Mystic if you'd like. Get a little burst in mana.
Has a Genesis Hydra in hand too, and I think that's the route that Moon wants to take this turn because he has a guaranteed hit in play or on top of his deck in Sylvan Caryatid. It's also the best play against Ojutai's command.
There's your unmorph. There's a surge in mana. Rattleclaw Mystic can also tap for mana. And now here's Genesis Hydra. It'll be for 4, Caryatid at the very least, as you mentioned. Arbor Colossus, Courser of Crufix, and Dragonlord Atarka. And it looks like he's going to go with Courser. So the rest of these will go away. The deck will be shuffled, and we'll see a new top card here in just a moment. This gives Moon another attempt to hit, with Courser of Crufix for a land.
And I really like the Genesis Hydra play this turn. You run a Whisperwood Elemental right into the face of an Ojutai's command or a Disdainful Stroke, really bad.
Yep.
This way, he still advances his board, but he's taking much less of a risk against one of Sigrist's counterspells.
Courser going to come across here for 2. Sigrist down to 15. Stoke the Flame still in hand in combination with the Soulfire Grandmaster. The question is just, how does Sigrist want to use it?
Sigrist needs one of his sweepers, like now.
Yep.
Because he's not going to be able to maintain this game with spot removal. Moon's, tight on mana if he loses all of his mana creatures and has a handful of expensive cards, but trying to win with just removal spells. You can see Sigrist is just flooding out a little bit right now. That's going to be very, very hard to do.
Yeah, we saw him try to do it in the last game and it didn't work.
Yep.
And his deck is a little bit more streamlined for game 2 and game 3 if we get there, but at this point he is drawing quite a few lands.
We also saw him resolve 3 copies of Dig Through Time.
Very true.
And still it felt like he had nothing left in the tank by the time the game ended. And Moon has missed with every Courser reveal thus far too. And the resources feel very different in spite of that.
Here come the Coursers. Sigrist's going to fall back down to 15. Now it's time to maybe start dropping the hammer here if you're Moon. You got access to 5 mana. Looks like there's at least 1 Whisperwood in hand, potentially 2. I think you just make him try to counter them all.
Moon does have to respect the possibility of a sweeper on Sigrist's side. You probably would have seen it last turn, but you can't rule it out.
Yeah. There's a little bit of fear of a sweeper, but I think if you're Frank, you just want to cast your spells.
Well, I like the Pelucranos play here because if Sigrist is on nothing, Pelucranos is a respectable body. And if he's got something like Disdainful Stroke or Ojutai's command, it's probably the least valuable threat in your hand. So I prefer playing Pelucranos to saying go, but I can also understand not wanting to just go ahead and cast some big spell.
Sure. Disdainful Stroke will be rebought. Rending Volley will take care of the Soulfire Grandmaster. And we're going to head back Sigrist's way. We know he's got a Disdainful Stroke in hand. Has the Plains over there as well. And it looks like it's going to be time to dig through time. Though you can tell Mike is in some serious trouble. He's going to have to delve away the entire graveyard to cast the dig. That's where his turn looks like it's going to start. So dig through time will resolve. He'll take a look at the top 7. Take 2 with him. However, we saw him resolve this card 3 times last game and never really got close to turning the corner.
You can see, there's 2 removal spells he can take here, and Stoke the Flames and Valorous Dance is not bad. I think that he needs to strongly consider taking the Ojutai's command just because he needs 2-for-1s. He needs to accumulate enough resources to be able to trade with what Frank's doing. And I think just taking 2 spot removal spells, even though that's attractive, will mean that you just lose the game when Moon finds his mana.
Battlefield Forge. And a passing of the turn. We head back to Moon. We know his top card is Whispered Elemental. What's next? Not a land, it's an Elvish Mystic. That said, Moon is still in pretty good position.
The way the game is shaping up now, Sigrist has a great shot if he draws one of his sweepers. If he finds Tragic Arrogance or especially End Hostilities, then I think he pulls ahead. But he's got to be able to beat the board soon as well. He's at 14 now, falling to 8. So even if he spends his turn using Ojutai's command on Frank's play, that looks good, but that is not going to be a game-winning line unless he finds a sweeper as well.
And I like Frank just kind of giving the beatdowns here and not casting a spell. You know he's got Disdainful Stroke. Here's Ojutai's command. Looks like draw a card, gain some life. So kind of play a role of a weird fog there. Though it does get Sigrist deeper into his deck. Sigrist is digging for those Wrath effects, though.
Well, he's also found Stormbreath Dragon now, and that gives him a pretty powerful line of play as well, as he could potentially play Stormbreath, leave up something like Valorous Dance or Disdainful Stroke, and answer Moon's play if Moon does something big, and if not, kill one of his creatures at the end of the turn.
There's Stormbreath.
You can also leave Stormbreath back on defense for at least one turn.
Yep. Stormbreath, a card that was meant to play offense. You can tell he wants to attack.
You can see with Ojutai's command in hand plus Disdainful Stroke, it's possible he wants to hold back for one turn and then start pushing his advantage. The race right now is not particularly good for Sigrist.
I agree with that.
And so he's just going to hold back on D for one turn.
Temple of Abandon is the top card. Figured he'd find some lands eventually. There's the Temple. You get 3 triggers, 1 for Scry, and then 1 for each Courser. The top card of the deck is a Forest. Forest is going to the bottom. Forest on top. Let's see what's next here for Frank Moon. Well, he's got to start casting some spells. You see him kind of cast it in the graveyard. He is not expecting this to resolve. He knows Mike has a copy of Disdainful Stroke. But he's got to work his way through that eventually. And Michael casts Valorous Stance on it. Coursers, of course, can't attack because Stormbreath Dragon out there, so we head back Sigrist's way.
And now I think Sigrist can really start going on the offensive here. Disdainful Stroke plus Ojutai's command in hand.
See what the plan is. Start with Jace and pass it back. Xenagos on top now. Basic Forest the draw. Moon having some trouble now. Sigrist is finally getting to a spot where he might be able to turn the corner. After Moon, you just have to keep casting your big spells and hope they resolve and get to do something. But his hand is forced. He doesn't really get to kind of bob and weave and kind of dictate things like he was in the first game. Sigrist is kind of starting to do that now.
The problem is that with the Stormbreath Dragon in play, Moon's offense has been shut down.
Yep.
Before he could play around the Disdainful Stroke because he had 6 points of power in play and Sigrist was getting pretty low. Now his hand is forced.
Counterplush draw. Very cryptic command-esque was Ojutai's command there. Now we head back Sigrist's way. Moon still cannot attack. Now Jace is going to activate, which means Jace is going to be flipping in just a moment. Dig Through Time was the draw. The Telepath Unbound is here. Starts on 5. We'll see where it goes.
Now Sigrist has really pulled ahead.
He is certainly getting to that spot. The question is, when can he start attacking with Stormbreath Dragon? Because now here's dig through time. There goes the entire graveyard. Top 7 going to take 2. Maybe now he finds a card like Tragic Arrogance and Hostilities. Did you find a copy of Mantis Rider? There's a Roast in there as well. He is in a great spot. Mantis Rider is quite good on this board too.
You got Stormbreath Dragon on defense, holding everything off. That could easily start going on the offensive whenever you feel it's ready to go. In the meantime, Mantis Rider can attack either solo or with some help.
Looks like Sigrist getting ready to cast Mantis Rider. Looks like Jace is going to go up, slow down a Courser of Crewfix. Here comes Mantis Rider. I like attacking with both here because you've got the other Courser covered. Exactly.
You got a 2-4. You got a 3-3 to block the 2-4. If Moon wants to Alpha Strike, that's fine. You're at 12.
Yep. A land off the top will gain Moon 2 life. Top card of the deck is Sylvan Caryatid. Nothing exciting there. And Moon knows that there's no coming back from this one. Sigrist did a nice job of turning the corner there, and he was able to do it without the use of a Wrath effect, which is very, very notable.
Yeah, I just thought there that Sigrist had fallen far enough behind on the board that he would need a sweeper. But Stormbreath Dragon basically got to play the role of sweeper. Shut down Moon's entire board. And then Ojutai's command alongside Disdainful Stroke was too much to overcome. I did like Moon winning on that Rending Volley there for a little bit earlier on in the game, but he waited long enough that Sigrist was able to rebuy a Disdainful Stroke, and that might have cost him.
Well, you see the time here. About 8 minutes to go. These players are going to have to shuffle up and sideboard very quickly if they're going to want to finish. Don't ever want to get a turn to start off with a draw.
Yeah. And particularly in the post-board games here where it really slows down, as you saw. Sigrist gets to cut off his low-impact removal, and attackers on the ground, I'm sure things like Goblin Rabblemaster are not really a feature. It becomes much more of a control deck, so the game slows down as well.
Well, Summer Creature Collection's where we're going here, folks, very quickly. We got playmats, we got sleeves, and we got bundles of some game night favorites.
Yeah, all available at StarCityGames.com/creature collection. Playmat, sleeves, and bundles for all the Summer Creature Collections. You see the Piglet, the Monkey, the Kraken, and Deathrite Salmon. You can head over to the website, again, StarCityGames.com/creature collection, or head over to our dealer booth at any of our opens or any Grand Prix that we're vending at.
Deathrite Salmon, very popular with the kids.
Yes.
They love the sushi fish. A forest is where Moon will start things. An island here for Sigrist. Game number 3 underway. We'll see if they can finish it. A forest, a Sylvan Caryatid. Mike will take a draw. Does have Jace on turn number 2 again. Jace, a great threat in this matchup. There is Jace.
Sigrist could have held up Disdainful Stroke here, taking a risk. Xenagos, for example, would be really bad, but it looks like Sigrist has avoided it.
Looks like Xenagos is just on top of the deck, not a land there for Moon, so all he can do is pass the turn back. Temple of Triumph to draw here for Sigrist. Jace can start to sort some things out. Temple of Epiphany to draw. We'll see what Mike wants to discard. Looks like it'll be Temple of Triumph. There's a Shivan Reef, and now this is what Jeskai does. Mantis Rider in the air, in for 3, very hard for Moon to answer, especially with these land problems he might be having.
And Sigrist is happy to risk the Xenagos coming down this turn because he can simply answer it with the Mantis Rider in play.
Super clean answer. There's Nykthos. That can catch Moon back up. Wooded Foothills back on top of the deck.
I suppose Moon has the option of plussing the Xenagos, but then it wasn't something that Sigrist had to answer in an immediate sense anyway.
There's Xenagos. The elevator is going up. There's Rattleclaw Mystic. Pass the turn back.
Solid turn here for Moon. He could get the Xenagos in play, got to plus it to keep it alive, and do something with the mana. So certainly a fine turn for Moon.
Can't be too unhappy. Jace going to go active. Mystic Monastery, the draw. Discard a dig through time. There is the Mystic Monastery. Mantis Rider will knock Xenagos down to 1. But 1 is not none, and that means Moon will get to use it this turn. Wooded Foothills, the draw. Top card of the deck, Courser of Crewfix.
Moon with access to a lot of mana.
Yep. There's Wooded Foothills. Gain life from the Courser. See just how many spells Frank wants to play this turn, because as you said, he's got access to a lot of mana.
Ideally, he get to play 2, so he would be able to play through a single copy of Disdainful Stroke.
Yep.
Don't know if that's an option. From what I gathered from Moon's hand, it looked like more mana creatures and 2 copies of Dragon Lord Atarka. So Disdainful Stroke is going to be very good for Sigrist here, hard for Moon to play around.
Elvish Mystic. That's the top card. Here's Dragon Lord Atarka, going big. It's going to be countered via Disdainful Stroke. Going to make a Satyr token. Interesting.
Well, he can't do anything with the mana.
Sure.
Xenagos is going to die anyway.
I believe he's got like a Rattleclaw Mystic in hand that he could have deployed.
I don't think there's a big rush to get the Rattleclaw Mystic into play, though.
Sure.
It's possible Sigrist has a sweeper, and he has nothing to do with his mana anyway, and he has all the mana in the world next turn regardless. So I think I like Moon's play of just getting another 2/2 into play.
Top card going to go to the bottom there from the Temple of Epiphany. Jace going to go active. Oshai's Command was the draw. Going to discard a copy of Elspeth. Manish Rider will take care of Xenagos. Likely passing the turn back. Moon will draw that Elvish Mystic. Top card of the deck is a Forest. Forest got into the battlefield. That'll trigger the Courser. Moon up to 20. What's next on top here for Frank? The Sylvan Caryatid. Dragon Lord Atarka in hand here again. That's the other payoff. Looks like Moon might start with that Elvish Mystic. And he will.
And it feels like we're seeing a replay here of game number 2, where Sigrist had one large threat that checked Moon's entire board of small stuff, and Sigrist had enough copies of Oshai's Command, Disdainful Stroke, and Valorous Stance to prevent any of Moon's large action from resolving or being impactful.
Nykthos, gonna make a bunch of mana. Here's a Morph. I'm just gonna pass the turn back. I think Mike felt he might be able to get something juicy with Oshai's Command that turn.
Well, he had the opportunity to just dig through time if he wanted to, if nothing happened. So he had it covered both ways.
Yeah.
Looks like he's electing not to dig, but...
Jace activation. Picked up a mountain.
It's possible Sigrist this turn is playing towards Tragic Arrogance.
That's what it feels like he's setting up.
Because now he has a Planeswalker and a creature.
Yep. The big question is just, does he have it in his hand? Because he's got an Elspeth in his hand. I don't think he has Tragic Arrogance just yet. Because if he has it, he gets to destroy Moon's board.
Well, the question is, you know, Moon's board is not very good right now. It's just all mana. And Moon could have a pretty powerful follow-up next turn if Sigrist taps out. So Sigrist may want to wait for Moon to just deploy a large threat, so he gets something powerful with the Tragic Arrogance as well. If he feels he can cover whatever Moon's follow-up is, I like Tragic Arrogancing right now.
And he does have it in his hand. He's going to cast it. Tragic Arrogance is going to wreck Moon's board because Sigrist can choose Enchantment for Courser of Kruphix, Creature for Courser of Kruphix, make Moon lose the rest of his stuff. Sigrist loses nothing. Jace will tick up to slow down the Courser. And now you got to love Sigrist's position.
And I think Sigrist has Elspeth Sun's Champion left over in his hand.
He does.
Which is why he's willing to tap out here, or effectively tap out for the Tragic Arrogance. Any big follow-up Moon has can probably just be answered by Elspeth minusing or plussing, depending on what it is.
And Moon's got to have his big follow-up this turn as well, because he also has a copy of Oshai's Command in hand.
Right. So it's a small risk that Sigrist is taking, but he has any realistic follow-up from Moon, he has covered right now.
Yep. There's a Morph, which is a Rattleclaw Mystic. Follow-up is Sylvan Caryatid. Now Sigrist is working with almost perfect information. He does not know the card in Moon's hand, which is a Dragon Lord Atarka, but he knows the top card of the deck. He knows that every single card that Moon's going to draw.
And Moon is in the spot, again, where his board is covered by just the Manish Rider.
Yep.
So Sigrist has a handful of powerful spells. Also has the option to flashback Tragic Arrogance should it come to that. That's a nice safety valve to have.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's neat.
In case things get out of control, got that ready to go too.
This Wrath, I guess, to reset the board and I lose nothing? Sure.
Yep. You know, if it comes up, I'm not saying it is, but, it's nice to have.
The ultimate safety valve? Yeah, not bad. Nykthos on top of the deck for us was the draw. Moon going to tap that Nykthos for mana. This is effectively drawing a card. He needs to get deeper into his deck for real stuff because he knows what's in his hand. Elvish Mystic, not very real right now. It looks like we have moved to time in this match. We will get confirmation on that as well as our turn count. Frank is turn 0, so Sigrist will have turns 1, 3, and 5. Frank Moon, turn 0, 2, and 4.
So Sigrist with 9 points in play via the Mantis Rider over 3 turns. Got to find some Stoke the Flames.
Yep. Here's Dragonlord Tarka. Absolutely not. Oathside's command, draw and counter. If he's able to find a card like Mantis Rider, and he's also got Dig Through Time in hand, you got to figure he'll find a way to get it over with.
He's got a lot of looks at it, but he needs to find it.
There are no guarantees.
Keep in mind that Moon has Corsair Crewfix in play. That can muck up the math.
Yep. I have to imagine Siggy's looking for something like a Mantis Rider here. You mentioned Stoke the Flames. That's good too, especially with flashback.
Yeah, I think that Sigrist's priorities here are haste flyers 1, good counters and removal 2, and then burn spells 3.
Sure. Turn 1 of extra turns. Wild Slash the draw. I think we have a Mantis Rider coming. Looks like we do. In for 6. Moon down to 10. Mystic Monastery. Jace has not been used just yet. It's going to go up yet again. Slow down the Morph. Pass the turn back. Moon will draw that Elvish Mystic. It's turn number 2 of extra turns. Wooded Foothills the draw. That'll gain Moon a life. He's up to 11. Top card, Forest. There's Elvish Mystic. All I can do is pass the turn back. Again, Sigrist is working with perfect information. Corsair letting Mike know exactly what he's playing against right now.
And I like that play a lot from Sigrist. He knows that Moon doesn't want to draw that forest, so he's going to break the fetch land. Then Sigrist will Valorous Stance in response on the Corsair. That means that Moon doesn't gain a life off the Corsair trigger. That means he falls to 3, and then either Mantis Rider finishes it off.
Sure.
Very, very sharp operations here from Sigrist.
Here come the beatdowns. Elspeth time. Looks to be that way. Here come soldiers. Sigrist still has not used Jace yet this turn either. It looks like it's probably going to go up again, though. Slow down the Morph. And looks like he's happy to pass. There's Wooded Foothills. Yeah, you mentioned Mike reaching for the mana, I think, really quickly here. Yep, he's going to let it go. So Moon will stay neutral with life there. Frank Moon needs a big draw right now. Not sure what that big draw is, though.
I think Dragon Lord Atarka can still get him to a draw at least.
Pelukranos? Maybe not so much, especially with Valor Stance in hand.
Yeah.
Genesis Hydra on top. Maybe that's what he was looking for.
The problem is that Moon's hand's forced. Sigrist has lethal in the air.
Yep.
Moon has to do whatever he's going to do with Pulukronos. And at that point, Valorous Stance is too much.
Moon will go up to 6. There is Pulukronos. Yes, he can make a bunch of mana. Yes, it can be a pretty large, monstrous activation. But Sigrist does have this covered with the Valorous Stance that he has in hand. And it's going to take every single minute and every single turn of this match here for Mike Sigrist. But it looks like he's going to move on to win it. Because as you mentioned, Frank Moon's hand is just forced at this point. He can pass the turn, but we're gonna get an activation regardless, as there's a Wild Slash that's gonna go upstairs. Moon down to 4. Turn number 5. It'll be in the upkeep. That the Pulukronos goes active, which is smart.
Yep.
If you're gonna do it, you might as well do it right.
Yeah, Moon is doing what he can to try to get a draw here.
Yep.
But now he has to be able to kill both of the Manus Riders, because now Sigrist can also flash back a Wild Slash via Jace, and Valorous Stance has this all covered anyway.
Yep. And there's your Pulukronos activation. In response, there is a Valorous Stance. And that is going to do it. Mike Sigrist is going to win this match here over Frank Moon, 2-1. Jeskai aggro on the last turn of the game takes down Green Red Devotion. And for the player of the year, he's off to a great start here in Worcester. He is 1-0.
And his